What if I told you that one of the most visited cultural landmarks in Los Angeles sits on a hilltop like a modern-day Acropolis, glowing white against the California sky, and was designed by an architect so obsessed with order and light that he spent an entire decade perfecting every single detail, from the angle of the sun at 4 in the afternoon to the precise rhythm of window mullions repeating across travertine facades? Welcome to the Getty Center, Richard Meier's masterpiece perched 881 feet above the city, a billion-dollar temple to art and architecture that opened in 1997 and immediately changed everything we thought we knew about how museums could exist in the landscape, how modernism could feel warm instead of cold, and how a single building complex could become both a rigorous intellectual statement and one of the most beloved public spaces in America. This isn't just another museum, and Richard Meier isn't just another architect. The Getty Center represents the culmination of everything Meier believed about architecture: the power of geometry, the poetry of natural light, the absolute necessity of order in a chaotic world, and the radical idea that modernist purity doesn't have to mean sterile emptiness, but can instead create spaces that elevate the human spirit while celebrating the art within. So how did a relatively modest architect from New Jersey, known primarily for elegant white houses for wealthy clients, end up designing what would become his magnum opus? A sprawling 110-acre cultural campus that would take nearly 14 years from commission to completion and cement his place among the greatest architects of the 20th century? The story begins not with Meier but with J. Paul Getty, the oil tycoon who was once the richest man in the world and who, despite his legendary frugality, including the famous phone booth he installed in his English estate to prevent guests from making expensive calls, genuinely loved art and wanted to share his collection with the public. Getty died in 1976, leaving behind the largest arts endowment in history, valued at approximately $1.2 billion, and a clear directive that his fortune should be used to promote the visual arts. By the 1980s, the Getty Trust had outgrown its original home, a recreation of a Roman villa in Malibu that was charming but far too small for the Trust's expanding mission, which included not just the museum but also research institutes for art history, conservation, and education. The Trust needed a new home, something monumental, something that could accommodate millions of visitors while also serving as a serious research institution, and they needed a site that could handle this complexity. They found it in the Santa Monica Mountains, a 742-acre ranch with panoramic views stretching from downtown Los Angeles to the Pacific Ocean, and in 1984, after an extensive search that considered 33 architectural firms, they made the bold decision to hire Richard Meier, a move that surprised many in the architectural community because Meier was known for relatively small-scale residential work, not massive institutional projects. But the Getty Trust saw something in Meier's work that others might have missed: an unwavering commitment to clarity, a deep understanding of how buildings could be composed like musical scores with repeating rhythms and carefully calibrated proportions, and above all, an almost spiritual relationship with natural light. Meier was 49 years old when he received the commission, already respected in architectural circles as one of the New York Five, a group of architects including Peter Eisenman, Michael Graves, Charles Gwathmey, and John Hejduk, who championed a return to pure modernist principles in the 1970s, but he had never tackled anything remotely close to this scale or complexity. The Getty Center would ultimately comprise 6 buildings totaling 900,000 square feet, including museum galleries, a research institute, conservation labs, auditorium, restaurant, and landscape gardens, all arranged on a hilltop site with strict height restrictions, earthquake requirements, and community concerns about traffic and visual impact. Meier approached the project with the methodical intensity of a chess grandmaster, spending months studying the site, analyzing the path of the sun across the sky at different times of year, understanding the relationship between the Santa Monica Mountains and the Los Angeles basin below, and developing a design philosophy that would guide every decision for the next decade. The core concept was deceptively simple. Rather than creating one massive building that would dominate the hilltop, Meier would design a village of interconnected structures that would feel both monumental and intimate, ancient and contemporary, with the buildings arranged along 2 intersecting axes, one following the geometry of the freeway below and the other responding to the cardinal directions and the path of the sun. This double grid system became the fundamental organizing principle of the entire complex, creating a dynamic tension between orthogonal geometries that gives the Getty Center its distinctive character, a sense of order that feels alive rather than rigid, purposeful rather than arbitrary. The circulation strategy was equally brilliant. Visitors arrive via a computer-controlled tram that ascends the hillside and experience Meier compared to a pilgrimage, a gradual journey that builds anticipation and separates the Getty Center from the busy city below. And when you finally reach the arrival plaza, you're positioned at the exact point where the two grids intersect, with carefully framed views opening in multiple directions, pulling you simultaneously toward the museum pavilions, the Research Institute, and the spectacular central garden designed by artist Robert Irwin. Every sightline was calculated, every threshold carefully composed, because Meier understood that architecture is fundamentally about the experience of moving through space, the revelation of views, the play of light and shadow, the rhythm of solid and void. The Getty Center's plan reads like an abstract composition, with circular and curved elements playing against the orthogonal grids, creating moments of surprise and delight within the overall order. And if you study the drawings, you can see Meier's architectural DNA throughout. The layered facades that create depth and shadow, the precise geometric relationships between elements, the careful balance between transparency and opacity, enclosure and openness. But the plan is only the beginning, because what really makes the Getty Center extraordinary is how Meier handled materials, light, and the integration with the landscape. Meier is famous for his white buildings, structures that seem to glow with an inner radiance, reflecting and transforming natural light throughout the day. And for most of his career, he achieved this effect using painted metal panels and white stucco. But for the Getty Center, working with a virtually unlimited budget and a client who demanded the highest quality, he made a crucial decision that would define the project's character. Instead of painted surfaces, he would use natural stone, specifically a rough split travertine limestone from quarries near Rome, the same type of stone the ancient Romans used for the Colosseum and countless other monuments. This was a radical departure from Meier's typical palette and a controversial choice among modernist purists who felt that using traditional materials somehow compromised the project's contemporary credentials. But Meier understood something profound. The travertine would give the Getty Center a sense of permanence and connection to architectural history, while still allowing him to explore modernist principles of abstraction and geometry. And the rough, textured surface would create a constantly changing play of light and shadow that polished stone or painted metal could never achieve. The travertine cladding system is itself a marvel of technical sophistication, with 16,000 individual stones, each measuring approximately 2 feet square and varying in thickness, attached to a steel frame using a custom-designed clip system that allows for earthquake movement while maintaining precise alignment. Meier's office developed detailed specifications for how the stone should be split, creating a consistent texture across thousands of pieces, and the color variation in the travertine, ranging from creamy white to warm beige with occasional fossil inclusions, gives the buildings a warmth and richness that pure white surfaces could never match. Against this textured stone backdrop, Meier introduced his signature white painted aluminum panels, used for canopies, sunscreens, and accent elements, creating a subtle but important dialogue between natural and manufactured materials, rough and smooth surfaces, warm and cool tones. The third major material is glass, used extensively throughout the complex in large windows, curtain walls, and skylights, and Meier was obsessive about glass specifications, testing numerous samples to find exactly the right balance of transparency, color neutrality, and UV protection for the artworks inside. The interplay of these three materials, travertine, aluminum, and glass, creates a sophisticated material palette that feels simultaneously timeless and contemporary, grounded yet ethereal. And as the California sun moves across the sky, the buildings transform continuously, the travertine glowing golden at sunset, the white aluminum panels reflecting the intense midday light, the glass surfaces becoming mirrors or transparent veils depending on the angle and time of day. The structural systems supporting this material richness are equally impressive, with the museum pavilions built around steel moment frames that allow for large column-free gallery spaces while meeting California's stringent seismic requirements, and the entire complex sits on base isolators, devices that allow the buildings to move independently during an earthquake, protecting both the structures and the priceless artworks within. Meier's obsession with natural light reaches its apotheosis in the museum galleries, where he designed elaborate systems of skylights, louvers, and scrims to bring diffused natural light deep into the exhibition spaces without the harsh glare or UV damage that would harm the artworks. Each gallery has a different lighting strategy depending on its orientation and the type of art it will display, with north-facing rooms receiving soft, even light throughout the day, while south-facing galleries use sophisticated sunscreen systems to control the intense California sun. The effect is magical. You walk through the galleries aware of the time of day, the quality of light, the changing weather outside, but never distracted by it, never uncomfortable. And this connection to natural cycles makes viewing art at the Getty Center fundamentally different from the typical hermetically sealed museum experience. The skylights themselves are architectural sculptures, complex assemblies of structural glass, fabric scrims, motorized louvers, and light sensors that automatically adjust throughout the day. And if you look up, you see these beautiful geometric compositions overhead, functional elements transformed into aesthetic statements. Water is another crucial element in Meier's design, used to animate spaces, create reflections, and provide cooling through evaporation in the hot California climate. The central arrival plaza features a stream that flows down the hillside, appearing and disappearing, creating sound and movement, while the reflecting pools outside the museum pavilions mirror the sky and buildings, dissolving the boundary between architecture and atmosphere. Robert Irwin's Central Garden, which Meier initially resisted but eventually accepted as part of the overall composition, provides a brilliant counterpoint to the architectural order above, a wild, exuberant celebration of organic form and color that flows down the ravine in a carefully controlled chaos of plants, water, and stone. The relationship between Meier's crisp geometry and Irwin's romantic naturalism creates a productive tension that makes both more powerful, and visitors consistently cite the garden as one of their favorite parts of the Getty Center experience, proving that great architecture doesn't need to control every element, but can instead create frameworks for other creative voices. The Getty Center opened to the public on December 16, 1997, after 13 years of design and construction, numerous controversies about traffic, building heights, and community impact, and a final cost of approximately $1.3 billion, making it one of the most expensive architectural projects of the 20th century. The critical response was mixed, with some praising Meier's achievement in creating a genuinely popular public space that welcomed millions of visitors while maintaining architectural rigor, and others criticizing what they saw as cold formalism, excessive monumentality, and a kind of corporate modernism that felt disconnected from contemporary architectural discourse. But the public response was overwhelmingly positive, with attendance immediately exceeding all projections and the Getty Center becoming one of the most visited museums in the United States, attracting not just art lovers but architecture enthusiasts, tourists, families, and locals who come simply to experience the spaces, the views, and the remarkable sense of serenity Meier created on this hilltop. The Getty Center's impact on Meier's career was profound and complex, establishing him as a master of large-scale institutional architecture, while also somewhat pigeonholing him as the architect of elegant white buildings for wealthy clients and cultural institutions. In the years since the Getty Center's completion, Meier has designed numerous other museums and institutional buildings, but none have matched the Getty's combination of scale, budget, site, and cultural significance. The project also represented the peak of a certain kind of architectural modernism, a belief in universal principles, timeless geometry, and the transformative power of beautiful, well-crafted spaces, values that fell somewhat out of fashion in the late 1990s and early 2000s as architectural culture shifted toward more expressive, digitally driven, and contextually responsive approaches. But perhaps the Getty Center's greatest achievement is simply that it works, not just as an architectural statement or a collection of beautiful spaces, but as a complex institution serving multiple functions while welcoming millions of visitors with grace and generosity. The circulation flows smoothly, the galleries provide superb environments for experiencing art, the research facilities function efficiently, the gardens and terraces offer countless moments of delight and discovery, and the overall experience feels coherent, purposeful, and ultimately uplifting. This is harder than it sounds, and many celebrated buildings fail this basic test of functionality and user experience. But Meier, drawing on his rigorous training and decades of experience, created a place that serves its purposes while also transcending them, becoming more than the sum of its practical requirements. The Getty Center teaches us that modernist principles of order,